This guy called 911 at 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve because his dog changed the smart lock code and he demanded a background check before being let back into his own house. And somehow, he wasn't even the dumbest call that night. Today, you'll hear 49 ridiculous 911 calls from people who turned Christmas into a locksmith emergency, including a man begging for a Santa override code and a teen locked out for saying "bah humbug" in iambic pentameter. Hit like if technology has ever betrayed you, and comment your worst holiday lockout story. Best one gets a spot in our New Year's Fail Fest. Don't forget to subscribe. We're dropping a new Christmas disaster every day until the calendar taps out. And here's the challenge. Help push this video to 1 million views by sharing it with just one friend. If every viewer does that, we break the counter faster than a smart lock breaks on Christmas Eve. All right, let's begin. 1. A man locked inside a Walmart inflatable Santa panicked when his innocent comfort test turned into a full holiday malfunction. The inflatable sealed around him like a soft red prison, while the air blower roared in his ears. He pushed outward, but Santa's giant belly bounced him back every time like a rubber trampoline. A little kid tapped the Santa and laughed as the entire figure wobbled, clueless that a grown adult was fighting for freedom inside the jolly mascot. With sweat dripping and panic rising, he finally dialed 911. The dispatcher paused, trying to picture the situation before sending help. When employees arrived and unzipped the costume, the man rolled out dramatically as the kid yelled that Santa had given birth. 2. A man trapped inside a self-driving Uber felt the situation escalate when the car refused to unlock until he displayed maximum Christmas spirit through a perfect 5-star rating. Holiday lights flashed across the dashboard like a festive interrogation, while loud carols blasted at full volume. He waved desperately at pedestrians, but they assumed he was simply enjoying the music. The heater blasted hotter with each failed attempt, and the seats vibrated in cheerful rhythm. Overwhelmed, he called 911 and explained he was being emotionally held hostage by a holiday-themed taxi. The dispatcher needed a long second to process the claim. When technicians finally disabled the vehicle, the man stumbled out, gasping, while the car cheerfully announced that he still needed to improve his holiday attitude. 3. A woman locked inside a mall Santa photo booth froze in disbelief when the door jammed right after she jokingly asked an elf actor if their union offered dental benefits. The booth lights flickered, and the camera began taking non-stop photos as she struggled to push the stuck curtain aside. Kids waiting in line cheered the flashing lights, thinking she was having the most magical Santa moment of the year. A toddler even waved and shouted encouragement. Sweating under the red lighting, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911 to report she was trapped inside holiday machinery. The dispatcher tried not to laugh while promising help. When workers finally pried open the booth, she stumbled out as hundreds of unflattering selfies printed behind her. 4. A teen stuck inside an inflatable rooftop snowman costume panicked when the suit overexpanded during caroling practice and sealed completely around him. He rolled helplessly across the shingles like a giant white ornament, while his friends yelled instructions from below. Every movement made him wobble closer to the edge, and he could barely hear anything through the thick fabric. A gust of wind spun him sideways, and he managed to reach his phone through a small air pocket and dial 911. The dispatcher listened as he explained he was currently trapped in a snowman, drifting across a roof. When firefighters arrived, they found him wobbling in circles, while a neighbor recorded everything for the internet. 5. A woman locked inside a grocery store walk-in freezer, after reaching for the last carton of eggnog, felt the temperature hit instantly. Frost drifted through the air as the heavy door clicked behind her with a thud. She pounded on the metal, but the holiday bustle outside drowned out every sound. A worker stocking yogurt glanced her way, but mistook her for a cardboard promotional figure. Shivering harder, she grabbed her phone and called 911 to report she was surrounded by frozen turkeys and bad holiday decisions. The dispatcher urged her to move around to stay warm. When employees finally opened the door, she burst out covered in frost, while another shopper casually grabbed the eggnog she risked her life for. 6. A man trapped inside a Christmas tree delivery box realized his co-worker had taped the flaps shut without noticing him inside. The box tilted and slid across the warehouse floor as workers moved it toward the loading area. He rolled from side to side in total darkness, trying not to crush the branches stacked beside him. Every kick he attempted was absorbed by the cardboard, like he was fighting a mattress. When he felt the box being lifted, he panicked and managed to angle his phone through a small gap to dial 911. The dispatcher struggled to understand the phrase, "I am inside a tree." When workers finally cut open the box, he tumbled out like a rejected holiday shipment. 7. A man locked inside a hotel room safe after leaning in too far to hide an engagement ring found himself curled into a metal cube of regret. The door clicked shut behind him, and the keypad glowed inches from his face. Ventilation was almost non-existent, and he shifted uncomfortably, trying not to crush the ring box beside him. Housekeeping passed through the hallway, but no one heard his muffled banging. Finally, he fished his phone from his pocket and dialed 911 to report that he was stuck inside a safe because of holiday romance. The dispatcher paused before promising assistance. When security opened the safe, he toppled onto the carpet while the ring rolled gently away like it wanted a different owner. 8. A man stuck inside a mall. Santa's sleigh prop felt panic rise when a forgotten demonstration seatbelt suddenly tightened around his waist and refused to release. He had climbed into practice waving when holiday music activated, and the belt locked as if preparing for a magical liftoff. Shoppers watched him smile nervously from the sleigh, believing he was an overly committed actor. Inside, he tugged the belt harder until he accidentally elbowed a reindeer animatronic, which startled him into calling 911. The dispatcher listened carefully while he explained he was being held captive by prop equipment. When mall staff arrived, they found him sweating through his sweater as the sleigh continued bouncing to the music. 9. A woman locked inside a Costco sample station fridge after lunging for what she called emergency cheese, regretted everything when the heavy glass door sealed behind her. Fog covered the inside of the glass as cold air blasted nonstop. She waved frantically, but shoppers rushed past chasing holiday bargains. A worker glanced her direction, but assumed she was part of a new frozen display. Shivering hard, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911 to report she was stuck inside the land of perpetual cold. The dispatcher reassured her help was on the way. When employees finally opened the door, she stumbled out as the cheese container fell dramatically to the floor, like it also gave up. 10. A man trapped inside a holiday parade float realized he was sealed inside a glitter-filled compartment when the remote lock activated while he adjusted tinsel. Before he could react, the float began moving, and he found himself crouched between plywood panels vibrating from loud carols blasting overhead. He yelled, but the crowd mistook his muffled voice for festive sound effects. As the float drifted down Main Street, he wrestled with props blocking every exit. Finally, he dialed 911 to report he was accidentally riding inside a Christmas attraction. The dispatcher sent responders who intercepted the float. When they opened the panel, he crawled out covered in glitter as kids cheered, thinking he was part of the show. 11. A man trapped inside a Tesla Cybertruck bed panicked when the tailgate unexpectedly closed while he arranged presents for a surprise delivery. The reinforced walls sealed around him like a metallic gift box, and the interior release button refused to respond. He pounded on the panels, but the truck's tough frame absorbed every hit. Shoppers in the parking lot walked by, assuming he was testing cargo space. As the truck lights flashed, he grabbed his phone and dialed 911 to report he was trapped inside a futuristic steel coffin. The dispatcher hesitated before sending help. When workers finally freed him, he crawled out with tinsel stuck in his hair as the truck beeped proudly like it won a contest. 12. A woman stuck inside a mall gift-wrapping kiosk froze when the automatic doors timed out mid-sentence as she asked if they could add a bow. The machine sealed behind her with robotic precision, and the conveyor system kept moving rolls of wrapping paper around her like a decorative tornado. Shoppers watched her spin helplessly as she tried ducking under the automated arms. Realizing she had absolutely no escape, she called 911 and explained she was trapped inside a holiday wrapping factory. The dispatcher took a deep breath before promising support. When the doors finally opened, she stumbled out, wrapped in ribbon, while employees tried not to laugh. 13. A teen locked inside a ski resort gondola at peak height felt his stomach drop as the system froze and left him dangling above the snowy valley. The gondola swayed gently with each gust of wind as holiday music played softly through the speakers like a mockery of relaxation. He pressed every emergency button, but nothing responded. The view was beautiful yet terrifying. With shaking hands, he called 911 and reported he was suspended 1,200 feet in the air, like an unwanted Christmas ornament. The dispatcher reassured him help was coming. When rescuers finally reached him, he cried with relief as tourists below filmed the entire rescue. 14. A man trapped inside a Costco pallet of inflatable Santas regretted volunteering to unbox the new shipment as the figures suddenly inflated all at once and sealed him in a rubbery cave. The Santas expanded with cheerful force, pushing him into the center, where countless plastic beards smothered him. Workers heard faint thumping but assumed it was just the inflatables settling. He managed to wiggle his arm to grab his phone and called 911 to report he was surrounded by a colony of expanding Santas. The dispatcher needed several seconds of silence before responding. When employees cut open the pallet, he spilled out, covered in static and judgment. 15. A man locked inside a Home Depot U-Haul panicked when the key fob died and the backup code required the phrase, "Ho ho ho," which he forgot, mid-panic. He tried guessing the sequence, but the truck responded with blinking red lights and a loud denial tone. Unable to escape, he tried climbing into the front, but the divider blocked him completely. Frustrated, he called 911 and explained he was trapped in a rental vehicle demanding holiday passwords. The dispatcher paused before sending assistance. When staff finally opened the door, he crawled out embarrassed while a customer asked if he wanted practice repeating the code correctly. 16. A woman stuck inside a mall fountain after climbing in to retrieve a dropped ring shrieked when the water jets activated and a maintenance lid closed above her. She crouched under the sprays while shoppers tossed coins, thinking she was part of a new holiday attraction. Water splashed her face as she attempted climbing the slippery walls. Desperate, she dialed 911 and explained she was contained inside a Festive water trap. The dispatcher reassured her while trying not to laugh at the imagery. When workers finally lifted the lid, she crawled out, drenched and furious, as the ring rolled back into the fountain. 17. A man locked inside a Christmas light testing booth found himself trapped after the million LED safety chamber malfunctioned and sealed shut. The lights flashed rapidly in every color, creating a chaotic disco inside the cramped space. He shielded his eyes while pressing every exit button available, but none responded. A technician outside waved but could not open the door. Growing desperate, he called 911 and described being held hostage by 1 million intensely bright lights. The dispatcher told him to stay calm while help was sent. When staff finally forced the door open, he stumbled out, blinking like he had seen another dimension. 18. A man trapped inside a Walmart shopping cart corral regretted hiding from his in-laws when the automatic lock engaged behind him. The metal gate sealed with a loud click, and he was left standing between rows of carts like a misplaced employee. Shoppers glanced at him but assumed he was reorganizing equipment for the holiday rush. Embarrassed yet freezing, he dialed 911 and admitted he was imprisoned by a shopping cart system. The dispatcher needed a moment before assuring him help was coming. When workers freed him, he sprinted out before his in-laws spotted him lurking like a runaway elf. 19. A teen locked inside a Target dressing room panicked when the smart mirror judged his quantity of outfit swaps as excessive holiday behavior and sealed the door. The mirror displayed festive animations while denying every attempt he made to leave. He pounded on the door, but staff were busy managing crowds. Feeling trapped, he grabbed his phone and called 911 to report he was detained by a judgmental mirror. The dispatcher reassured him while suppressing a laugh. When employees finally unlocked the door, he ran out mortified as the mirror displayed a final message, encouraging better fashion discipline. 20. A man stuck inside a mall Santa mailbox after sliding in to check for letters realized the anti-tamper mechanism had locked him into the narrow space. Children saw his hand waving from the slot and assumed Santa was sending greetings. He tried shouting, but the metal walls muffled everything. Cramped and humiliated, he managed to reach his phone and dialed 911 to report he was stuck delivering himself as mail. The dispatcher took a long pause before dispatching help. When firefighters arrived and pulled him free, parents clapped, thinking it was part of a Christmas performance. 21. A woman locked inside a hotel ice machine room panicked when the door sensor misread her movements as cube hoarding during the holiday cocktail rush. The heavy door sealed behind her while the machine dumped fresh ice all around her feet like she was trapped in a frosty avalanche. She tried waving at a passing guest through the small glass panel, but they assumed she was checking the machine. Shivering, she dialed 911 and explained she was imprisoned for allegedly stealing ice. The dispatcher breathed heavily, trying to keep a straight voice. When staff freed her, she emerged covered in cubes like a human margarita. 22. A man trapped inside a Christmas train set tunnel at a holiday display regretted crawling in to fix a tiny derailment when the track auto-activated and blocked both exits. He lay curled inside the narrow tunnel, listening to the toy train chug toward him again and again like a cheerful threat. Visitors pointed at the tunnel, wondering why it shook every few seconds. Desperate, he called 911 and reported he was stuck inside a miniature railroad meant for children. The dispatcher needed several seconds of silence before responding. When staff opened the tunnel, he crawled out dusty, while the train continued its loop without apology. 23. A man locked inside a Costco rotisserie chicken display nearly screamed when the heavy glass door sealed behind him after he reached for what he called an emergency holiday snack. Heat lamps glowed menacingly above him, while chickens rotated slowly like they judged his desperation. He tapped the glass, but shoppers ignored him, believing he was part of a new promotional demonstration. Sweating and panicking, he called 911 to explain he was roasting slowly in a chicken chamber. The dispatcher urged him to stay calm and breathe carefully. When employees freed him, he stumbled out, smelling like he had slept inside a barbecue. 24. A teen stuck inside a mall elevator dressed as an elf panicked when the system detected his oversized shoes as a costume obstruction and halted at floor 3. The doors refused to open as cheerful holiday music echoed through the enclosed space. He pressed the emergency buttons repeatedly, but nothing responded. Parents outside heard faint jingling and assumed he was performing a skit inside the elevator. Overwhelmed, he called 911 and reported he was trapped in full elf gear. The dispatcher asked him to describe the situation while trying not to laugh. When technicians arrived, the teen stepped out, red-faced, as bells continued ringing with every move. 25. A man locked inside a Walmart self-checkout pod felt panic rise when the system flagged unexpected item and bagging area and triggered a security lockdown. The sliding glass panels sealed around him like a futuristic cage while the machine repeated its error message. Shoppers walked by, assuming he was receiving special assistance. He waved frantically, but no one approached. Finally, he called 911 to explain he was imprisoned by a holiday glitch. The dispatcher sighed before sending help. When employees released him, he rushed out as the pod loudly announced his checkout was still incomplete. 26. A man trapped inside a holiday RV at a campground found himself sealed in when the smart system detected excessive eggnog consumption and activated a safety lock. The interior lights turned red, while the dashboard displayed a sobriety warning. He tried opening every window, but each one clicked firmly shut. Embarrassed, he dialed 911 and explained he was being detained by his own camper. The dispatcher carefully asked him to confirm he was inside the RV and not behind it. When the lock finally disengaged, he stumbled out, while other campers clapped sarcastically as the RV beeped its disapproval. 27. A man locked inside a mall Santa break room fridge after hiding from excited children realized too late that the industrial door auto-latched. Cold air blasted him as he crouched between leftover sandwiches and costume accessories. He banged on the frame, but mall staff were busy managing crowds. Shivering, he called 911 to confess he was trapped inside a fridge designed for holiday performers. The dispatcher held a long pause before reassuring him. When employees finally opened the door, he crawled out wearing a child's elf hat stuck to his hair from static. 28. A woman stuck inside a Christmas ornament display case panicked when the sliding glass sealed after she reached for a limited edition Grinch ornament on the top shelf. The locking system activated automatically for the night shift, and she found herself standing among dozens of glittery figures, staring in silent judgment. She waved at passing workers, but none noticed her through the reflections. Desperate, she dialed 911 and explained she was trapped in an ornament case like a misplaced decoration. The dispatcher promised help. When security finally opened the case, she walked out, covered in glitter, while the Grinch ornament rolled away. 29. A man locked inside a Home Depot paint mixing booth regretted shaking the can of Festive red too aggressively when the booth sensors mistook the spill as a chemical hazard. The protective doors sealed instantly, and holiday alarms flashed around him. Red paint splattered his clothes, making him look like he survived a candy cane explosion. He reached for the emergency release, but it stayed frozen. Unable to escape, he called 911 and explained he was being detained by seasonal paint. The dispatcher reassured him help was coming. When staff opened the booth, he stepped out, dripping red as customers gasped at the sight. 30. A man trapped inside a Costco pallet jack after sitting down to rest during holiday chaos panicked when the safety bar lowered and locked him into a rigid position. He tried lifting it, but the metal snapped firmly into place. Shoppers passed by assuming he was a dedicated employee guarding the pallets. Feeling ridiculous, he called 911 and explained he was restrained by warehouse equipment. The dispatcher attempted professionalism while asking him to stay still. When workers released him, he jumped off the pallet jack and swore he would never sit on anything with wheels again. 31. A woman locked inside a mall photo booth with two inflatable reindeer panicked when the holiday timer activated and inflated both creatures at full power. The reindeer expanded until their antlers pinned her shoulders and pushed her against the wall. She tried squeezing past them, but the booth shrank into a claustrophobic foam cave. Customers walking by thought it was an interactive Christmas display because the booth kept flashing lights. Unable to escape, she dialed 911 and explained she was being crushed by Festive wildlife. The dispatcher hesitated before sending help. When staff opened the booth, she spilled out while the reindeer faces continued smiling proudly. 32. A man stuck inside a Starbucks drive-thru speaker box panicked when he climbed in to fix what he called a hoarse Santa voice, and the service door jammed shut behind him. He crouched beside the wiring while customers pulled up ordering lattes, unaware their barista was trapped inside the speaker system. Every time he moved, the microphone screeched, causing drivers to cover their ears. With no exit in sight, he called 911 to report he was imprisoned in a communication booth. The dispatcher needed him to repeat himself twice. When employees freed him, he crawled out dusty as a child, shouted that Santa sounded broken. 33. A man locked inside a hotel room minibar after attempting to restock snacks found himself sealed inside when the automatic restock cycle activated. The tiny space hummed loudly as shelves shifted and cold air blasted him from the vents. He tried pushing the door, but the mechanism held firm, while small bottles of liquor rattled around him like taunting souvenirs. Realizing he could not escape, he dialed 911 and explained he was trapped inside a minibar during a holiday shift. The dispatcher struggled to maintain composure while promising help. When staff opened the door, he tumbled out, covered in crushed pretzels. 34. A teen trapped inside a Christmas cookie delivery drone panicked when he climbed in to test its payload ability, and the hatch auto-locked for secure transport. The drone lifted slightly before malfunctioning and settling back on the ground with him sealed inside. He curled awkwardly as metal clamps held him in place while blinking lights circled around him. Unable to push anything open, he called 911 and reported he was trapped in a shipping drone designed for baked goods. The dispatcher took a long breath before responding. When technicians freed him, he rolled out like a rejected holiday package. 35. A woman locked inside a Walmart garden center greenhouse panicked when the misting system activated and the door sensor malfunctioned at the same time. Humid air filled the space as she slipped on wet tiles trying to reach the exit. Plastic plants rustled as the fans blew hot moisture across the room, like a tropical storm trapped in December. She pounded on the glass, but shoppers assumed she was adjusting decorations. Soaked and overheated, she called 911 and explained she was imprisoned in a greenhouse during winter. The dispatcher reassured her calmly. When workers freed, her steam poured out like she escaped a jungle. 36. A teen stuck inside a mall Santa gift sack regretted volunteering as a test elf when the remote drawstring cinched shut and pulled him downward. He wriggled inside the giant red bag as employees prepared for a performance, unaware he was trapped inside. Kids walked by, laughing as the bag twitched like Santa's magical pouch. The teen called 911 from inside the fabric and explained he was currently bagged by Christmas. The dispatcher paused before sending security. When employees opened the sack, he flopped onto the floor, while a child gasped, believing Santa had dropped an elf. 37. A man locked inside a Costco tire display panicked when he slipped into a giant snow tire, trying to check its depth, and the rim lock engaged around him. His arms stuck upward as he spun slowly in the stack like a trapped cartoon character. Shoppers stared but assumed it was an advertisement. Unable to free himself, he called 911 and explained he was wedged inside a tire meant for winter driving. The dispatcher confirmed twice before dispatching help. When workers finally cut him free, he stumbled out dizzy while an employee reminded him not to climb into merchandise. 38. An old man stuck inside a holiday parade band uniform case, crouched uncomfortably after climbing in to do warm-up exercises. The lid slammed shut and auto-latched while muffling his calls for help. He knocked repeatedly, but the marching band rehearsed loudly nearby. Feeling forgotten, he called 911 and explained he had been accidentally stored like equipment. The dispatcher reassured him help was coming. When band members finally opened the case, he sat up, gasping as students stood around, shocked. One kid whispered that they thought he was a tuba. 39. A woman trapped inside a Home Depot ladder cart regretted stepping inside to organize stray lights when the safety bar dropped and locked her in place. She rolled back and forth helplessly as customers tried not to stare. Every attempt to duck under the rail failed miserably. Eventually, she called 911 and reported she was restrained by a ladder cart during holiday setup. The dispatcher asked for her location twice because the situation sounded unreal. When employees released her, she bolted away as the cart beeped in reverse, like it was mocking her escape attempt. 40. A man locked inside a mall fountain maintenance hatch froze when he climbed in to investigate why coins kept disappearing and the automatic seal engaged. Water trickled loudly above him as he crouched in the cramped metal box. Muffled laughter echoed outside as kids tossed coins, unaware he was directly beneath them. Feeling ridiculous, he called 911 and reported he was trapped under a fountain. The dispatcher kept repeating the location to confirm. When maintenance staff opened the hatch, he crawled out, soaked and glittered, as someone shouted that the fountain monster was real. 41. A woman locked inside a Tesla showroom. Model X panicked when she sat in the driver's seat to test the Futuristic doors, and the vehicle switched into demo lock mode. The doors folded dramatically while sealing her inside, like she had been selected for a high-tech magic trick. She pressed every screen option, but it only displayed holiday ads. Shoppers walked by admiring the car while she stared helplessly from inside the glass cocoon. Finally, she grabbed her phone and called 911 to report she was trapped in a showroom car that refused to acknowledge her humanity. The dispatcher promised help through muffled laughter. Staff eventually freed her as the car chirped a cheerful holiday chime. 42. A man trapped inside a Christmas light drone swarm panicked when he stepped too close during a holiday demonstration, and the drones registered him as the centerpiece of their festive formation. They circled tightly around him, creating a glowing cage, while he waved his arms like a confused wizard. Spectators assumed he was part of the demonstration, while he crouched in fear of being clipped by spinning propellers. With no escape, he called 911 and reported he was trapped by decorative flying robots. The dispatcher repeated the sentence twice before sending help. Technicians finally dispersed the drones, and he stumbled out, shaking with light patterns still reflecting on his jacket. 43. A woman locked inside a Walmart pharmacy drive-thru window panicked when she leaned in too far to ask about a prescription refill, and the automatic security panel slid shut behind her. She ended up halfway inside the booth, with her legs dangling outside like a malfunctioning puppet. Customers behind her car stared in total confusion. She tried pulling herself out, but the tight frame held her firmly. Embarrassed, she called 911 to report she was stuck inside a pharmacy window. The dispatcher reassured her gently. When employees finally opened the panel, she fell back into her car as someone applauded sarcastically from the line. 44. A man stuck inside a mall Santa chimney prop regretted climbing down for a fun photo op when the flue damper shut above him. He was wedged awkwardly between faux bricks while children gathered around pointing at the chimney as it shook from his frantic wiggling. Unable to move upward or downward, he finally called 911 and explained he was stuck, pretending to be Santa in a non-functional chimney. The dispatcher assured him help was coming. Firefighters arrived and carefully lifted the top panel. He emerged covered in dust while a kid asked why Santa was escaping early. 45. A woman locked inside a Costco sample tray warmer shrieked when she reached in for what she called the last essential meatball, and the safety lid sealed shut. Warm air blasted around her as she crouched beside trays of appetizers like a trapped buffet item. Shoppers stared but assumed she was helping staff with stocking. Desperate, she called 911 to report she was stuck inside a food warmer during the holiday rush. The dispatcher tried not to laugh as she explained the situation. When employees opened the lid, she stumbled out, flushed, and smelling like seasoned meatballs. 46. A man trapped inside a holiday Uber Eats delivery bag panicked when he climbed in to stay warm while waiting for his next order, and the thermal lock engaged automatically. He curled awkwardly as the bag tightened around him like a festive cocoon. The insulated walls absorbed his pounding and muffled every attempt to call out. Finally, he reached his phone and dialed 911, explaining he had become his own delivery item. The dispatcher asked twice to confirm before sending help. When coworkers unzipped the bag, he rolled out onto the sidewalk as a customer asked if he came with extra sauce. 47. An old woman locked inside a mall escalator comb plate froze when her shoe slipped into the mechanism, and the safety system instantly halted and sealed the access panel. She found herself stuck awkwardly between the steps, while holiday shoppers gathered around offering unhelpful advice. Unable to free herself, she called 911 and calmly reported she was trapped inside an escalator on the 3rd floor. The dispatcher reassured her while coordinating maintenance. When workers removed the panel, she stepped out with dignity, despite applause from nearby teenagers. One kid asked if she was part of a Christmas stunt. 48. A teen stuck inside a Christmas tree flocking machine screamed when he stepped in to test a quick spray, and the chamber sealed around him like a winter tornado. Artificial snow blasted from every direction, coating him in thick white foam until he looked like a walking snowdrift. He stumbled toward the door, but the safety lock held firm. Desperate, he called 911 and explained he was stuck inside a snow machine, turning him into a frosted decoration. The dispatcher urged him to stay still. When staff opened the chamber, he emerged covered head to toe as a child shouted that a real snowman escaped. 49. A man locked inside the NORAD Santa Tracker server room panicked when he pressed a glowing button labeled "Ho-Ho" and triggered a full security lockdown. Metal shutters slammed shut as flashing lights declared restricted access. He spun in circles looking for an exit, but everything sealed instantly. Accepting defeat, he called 911 and admitted he accidentally initiated a national Christmas protocol. The dispatcher placed him on hold to verify the situation. When security arrived, they found him pacing beside humming servers, while a screen displayed "Unauthorized Elf Detected." He left escorted by guards as an alarm played festive jingles in the background. And those were the 49 dumbest Christmas 911 lockout calls ever. Every one of these people found a brand new way to battle holiday decorations, technology, or pure December chaos. If even one of these disasters made you laugh, then hit the like button because it tells the algorithm you survived this list. Make sure you subscribe because tomorrow we drop another wild holiday fail that nobody will believe. Now here's the challenge. Share this video with one person who would absolutely cause one of these lockouts, and tell me in the comments which call you would have lost your mind in the fastest.